Are you aware of the subconscious energy drain of unforgiveness and resentment? To learn more about how to take your power back, keep watching. Hi there, I'm Rebecca, your vibe mentor, here to help you raise your vibration so you can live your best life. So the topic of forgiveness has been coming up a lot for me lately, just kind of in everyday life and from different avenues. And when it first kind of started coming to me, I thought, I've already forgiven everybody I need to forgive. I've done my inner child work, I've healed the inner child, and forgiven all of the major issues that have ever happened in my life, and integrated the shadow and a lot of forgiveness work there. And I just kind of felt like, not sure why this is coming up. I think I've already done my work. And it was interesting because as I went throughout life thinking I had already done the work, things would come up. There was a neighbor that always waves, and whenever I drive by, I find myself not wanting to wave because there was this one time we were looking for the big exercise ball that was on the trampoline that had blown away during a storm, and we posted on the neighborhood chat group, "Has anybody seen my ball?" And everybody responded, no, haven't seen it. And then we find, in a different Facebook group that this neighbor had posted, "Hey, there's a big giant exercise ball rolling down the road." And, it kind of felt like it was a crappy move. It kind of felt like he did it on purpose. And so now I didn't realize it, right? I'm driving by not wanting to wave, and I kind of had that moment of like, oh, I need to forgive him. And it was interesting because as time would go on and go throughout daily life, I would, run into another little thing. And it was all these kind of little things where I realized, okay, this is why. This is why the topic is coming up. There's these little subconscious energy drains happening where I've held a little resentment here and a little resentment there, and I've blocked this person out, or I've, projected some negative energy at this other person. And it's nice when the lessons are not quite so heavy, because forgiveness can be a big thing. And for me, this was a little one, but for some people it can be really big. And forgiveness is huge because we don't forgive for other people, we forgive for ourselves. It is a gift to ourselves. And it doesn't condone the actions of others. It just is a way for us to become free of this negative energy that we are carrying around. Those resentments and that anger that we harbor in our heart, they take up space. It takes energy to hold on to these things. And the definition of forgiveness is to cease to feel resentment, or to stop feeling angry or resentful towards, to stop blaming or holding a grudge. And so forgiveness is really a sign of strength, to be big enough, to be man enough, to be woman enough to say, yes, I need to forgive. I need to let go. There is something here for me. It really helps build our muscles, and it does make us stronger, and it demonstrates our strength out in the world as well. Forgiveness is healing. We cannot heal our wounds if we don't let go of those things that caused the initial wound. It's extending mercy to those who have wronged us, and all we ever want is to be forgiven and to be shown mercy. And so, of course, we have to give what we want to receive. We have to forgive others so that we can forgive ourselves, because we find that when we are holding on to resentment towards others, there is an equal amount of resentment or judgment or unforgiveness being internally projected, and always as within, so without. So we need to take these situations as indications of what we need to work on and what learning and growth is available to us now by what's being reflected to us by the outer world. Like I said, we forgive ourselves we forgive others so that we can forgive ourselves. We have to overcome the feelings of bitter and angerness and revenge or resentment so that we can be set free. Holding a grudge takes so much energy. It's like being held captive. It's like being in chains, like being in prison. You can't move forward. We can't take our power back if we're unforgiving and holding on to this resentment. We have to change so that we can have a chance at peace. If we are not willing to change, we're in a way staying stuck in this place without letting go and being able to move forward. We forgo our chance at peace. We have to release the victim mentality. We have to heal our scars and let those wounds heal, and we can't do that if we don't forgive. Anger and unforgiveness keeps the wounds open. It also seeps into other relationships. We can't enjoy the present. We can't be healthy, whole, and complete the way we want to be. We could even lack meaning and purpose in our life. And we even become at odds with our beliefs because this darkness that we hold on to will start to create a chasm within us, a separation of self, essentially. Forgiveness, it gives you inner strength and a sense of safety in a way, because we cultivate a safe place within ourselves, and we can be at home and at peace with who we are in our internal environment. It can reverse the lies that we tell ourselves. I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, especially when people hurt us or do things that require forgiveness. It can start to create a question of, am I worthy, or why did they do that? What's wrong with me? And so by forgiving them, we release that negativity, and we can remember that we are worthy and we are worth it. We deserve love and forgiveness just like everyone else does. It can also reduce the symptoms of PTSD. It has an interesting side effect of creating better health, which I guess if you've watched any of my videos should be no surprise that when we have a negative internal environment, we have these negative thoughts, or we're harboring negative feelings, we're creating stress hormones in our body. And so we have this chemical cocktail of hormones and chemical messaging going throughout our system that creates chaos, and it will create disease and dis-ease. Forgiveness can also lead to a greater sense of empathy and understanding and compassion. It will reduce stress and anxiety. Obviously, hostility it reduces depression, and it improves your immune system, again, through that same health response or physical response, and you will create a healthier environment, therefore a stronger immune system. And of course, greater self-esteem. When you know that you're strong enough to do the right thing and to let go of these things, being the bigger person, you will create a greater sense of self-esteem and self-confidence in knowing that you are strong and capable of doing hard things. We are all capable of doing hard things, as I tell my kids. And I have to say all of this, of course, with the caveat that, some situations are more difficult to work with than others. Some people have experienced extreme trauma. I don't like to give examples of the negative things, but if you have experienced something, when you're on the extreme end. I'm not necessarily addressing those today, although after a point of time, after the proper amount of grieving, you will come to a place where you'll be able to talk about it. And when you can talk about it, that's when you're probably approaching that place where you're able to start working on forgiveness. We need, of course, to allow those wounds to heal, allow the scar to heal before you attempt to try to force forgiveness. But when you're ready, that you'll know it's time to let go. And just start slow. It's just like a workout, just like a muscle, a new routine. We've got to take baby steps and ease into it, be gentle with ourselves and not push or judge. It is just like a muscle, like anything else, social or emotional. They all are mental skills that we need to flex just like we flex our biceps. So if it was a minor offense, like I said, take the time you need. But if it was a major offense, if it was a minor offense, we need to ask ourselves, we may need to ask ourselves, does this really require forgiveness? Are we assuming something negative that may not even be true? Are we assuming fault in someone that may not necessarily be the case? And we have to be very careful with our perceptions. We have to have right perception and know that we are encountering other people who are dealing with very difficult things. And many people have coping mechanisms that were developed at a young age because they experienced some kind of trauma or hardship they weren't prepared to deal with. So for someone who is more aggressive, they may have been a more passive person and found that the environment that they grew up in was not going to reward a passive person, and so they had to become more aggressive. We really have to ask ourselves, did that person act with malintent? Did they really mean to harm us? Were they really out to hurt us? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is going to be no. We have to be honest with ourselves enough and compassionate with others enough to recognize that sometimes this just isn't about us, and that person cut us off or, was rude at the grocery store because they're having a bad day and they're going through a divorce, or they just lost their job, or they have difficult children, or whatever the experience may be that they're going through. not necessarily justifying the behavior, but remembering that our holding resentment or anger or an unforgiveness is actually going to harm us just as much. And it ties us to that person instead of being able to let it go. There is an energetic projection of negativity towards them, which they will on a subconscious level feel as well. And it just puts more out there for all of us to have to deal with. And so when we can start forgiving in that moment and letting these things slide, you relieve your own burden as well as the collective burden. Remember that your mind always wants to be right. It will always try to find the evidence to prove that that person was wrong and you're the victim and you're justified in being angry and you're going to hold this resentment, and the next time you see him, you're not going to wave at that guy because he did not bring your ball back. And it's not worth it. We have to be able to recognize when the mind is trying to distort the truth and recognize when the ego is trying to protect the self. And again, all typical, common self-defense mechanisms, but not resourceful and not serving us. So we need to be the adult, be the parent of the mind and the ego, and kind of talk them down off the ledge, if you will. Forgiveness, you'll find, is very still and quiet. It observes. It does not seek to twist the situation to serve any type of agenda or purpose. It waits, and it does not judge. So that's when you'll know that you're in the right place, is when you can find yourself at peace, just visualize or observing the environment around you and what is happening without labeling, without judging, without taking it personally. Remember that every person is unique and special. They are a critical piece to the collective whole, and they are irreplaceable. And everyone deserves to be treated with that type of value and respect. Every single person in this world, regardless of who they are, where they come from, what they've done, or what they're going to do, they are valuable. And we have to have that perspective when we view other people and come from a place of compassion and understand that something that may seem offensive to you is likely a cry for help, or it should, to us as the observer, be an indication of a need for love, and to be able to return that compassion and that understanding to everyone that we encounter, regardless of the difficult circumstances they're dealing with or the difficulty they may be projecting in your direction. Everyone is worthy of love. Everyone makes mistakes, and we need to be able to give what we want to receive. In fact, oftentimes we cannot receive what we are hoping to receive if we're not able to offer that. And so we want to be able to give them love and forgiveness and compassion and grace and mercy, because those are the things that we're looking for as well. And so you must give in order to receive. Forgive the guy who cut you off. Remembering it's not about you. Science actually shows, this is really interesting, that when we can forgive someone, we actually activate the empathy parts of our brain. So they're intertwined, they're connected. And in order for us to exercise this muscle, as we practice empathy, we are strengthening the forgiveness muscle. And as we forgive, we are strengthening the empathy muscle. Remember to address your pain, that oftentimes your response to a situation is because of something you're dealing with and not necessarily having to do with the person that you're encountering. A good example for me is criticism. I don't deal with criticism well. I'm really sensitive. I don't like it. But oftentimes correction or constructive, gentle criticism can come across as more harsh than it really is. And I have to recognize that's the playing field I'm working with, right? And so I need to be the adult and recognize, Mr. Mind, Mr. Ego, you are acting out at this moment. This is not something this person needs to necessarily be forgiven for or apologize for. That we need to be a little tougher in this moment and recognize this is a learning moment, a growth moment. Love the inner child. Give that inner child what they're looking for, because it's really a cry for help. And remind yourself, your inner child, your ego, your entire inner and outer being, that you are healthy, whole, complete, and in no need of external validation, and that we can give ourselves the love that we're looking for in that moment if we're not receiving it from the external environment. Look for the bigger meaning and the purpose in everything. Life happens for you, not to you. And so when we struggle with these more offensive situations, greater than, being cut off on the highway, and sometimes it is just that, but when we're struggling with forgiveness, we need to look for the bigger lesson in it. What is the purpose? What have I gained from this? What's the silver lining? How have I gotten stronger? How am I getting better? What is the lesson I'm being taught? And we can have gratitude in those moments, and we can be grateful and say, thank you, life, thank you, God, thank you, universe, for whatever you're showing me right now, because I know that I'm growing and getting stronger. Thank you to the other character, the other person in this situation, for playing such an important role that you played so perfectly that I am able to learn the lesson I need to learn. Thank you for being my mirror. And when we can find the bigger meaning or purpose, we grow stronger, and we grow that muscle. We grow the muscle of forgiveness, the muscle of empathy, but the muscle of social emotional ability to adapt to an ever-changing world out there, and to deal with unforeseen situations, and to become more flexible, and to become more agile, and to be able to bend like the palm tree in the storm, so that we don't break. Forgive yourself. Again, like I said earlier, you're only able to receive what you're able to give. And so that kind of goes the other way too. Forgive yourself for all of the mistakes you've ever made. Forgive yourself for the participation in the experience, because likely you participated in that experience in some way. And forgive yourself for any future mistakes you're ever going to make. Forgive yourself for being you, for being human, for being perfectly imperfect. You are just the way you need to be to learn what you need to learn. So forgiveness is so, so key. It's amazing how much energy can be released when we let go of all of these little things, and how free we can feel. And it's a gem for sure. If you can start to practice this, you'll notice a difference. And of course, some of the go-tos is write in a journal if you need to get it out, talk to a friend, maybe even talk to the person who wronged you if you can understand their perspective. That can help you find more empathy and compassion and forgiveness as well. So yeah, lots of tips and tricks there. I'd love to hear below. Is there anybody you've ever struggled with forgiving, and what your go-to techniques are if ever you experience this? So like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. So much love, my friends. Namaste.